Thanks, Brandon. Hello, everybody. How are we? Good, good. Can you hear me in the back? Yeah, yeah. Okay. So yeah, my name is Jordan Tomnuk. I'm an industrial designer here in Edmonton, Alberta. I own a company called Tomnuk Design, which I founded in 2012. Since then, I'm trying to advance in what I've been doing. I started off with small products, and since then, I've been working ahead. Today, the talk is minimal. From there, I broke it down a little bit, and I turned it into more simplicity and how to run a business from a simple side, how to start out. So without further ado, I'm gonna start. You just tap, there we go. So yeah, the pictures aren't the best. So it looks really good here. So this is a rolling pin that I did in my first year university, and it's changed quite a bit. Originally, it had solid brass ends on it. It didn't have a hanging feature. It was quite a bit larger. So this is a first product that I wanted to kind of run with, use as a starting point for my company, which is perfect. It was a simple product. It was one material at the time, and I thought I could make it locally. So once I left university, I got a lot of interest from this product during our grad show. So using this as a springboard product, I started looking for manufacturers locally and running into a lot of issues. I'll just break it down for you. The biggest thing when you're starting with a new product is that you want to find how cheap you can make it, because at the end of the day, you have to sell this at wholesale to somebody. This pin right now sells for $125. The prices I was getting in Edmonton were $60 to produce it. So by the time you get to retail, your margins are shot. So that was one of the biggest hurdles for me, figuring out how to produce something and what your margins are. So with a lot of research and looking into places, both locally in Canada and then in the United States, I eventually found somebody that could make it for me. This is a company called Brownwood Inc., and they're out of Pennsylvania. So from there, we started making them, and I made a small batch of these at first, under 100, and basically just looking for people to buy them, family, friends, friends of friends, that kind of thing. Once I got a little traction, I got into a few retailers. So we took that, and I got a shop. Oh, there's a French pin. So this French pin came after the big pin. Doing more research on rolling pins and finding out this is a quite popular item. So again, it looks much better here. So this is my shop. It was a big move for me. It's a very small shop. It's probably, I don't know, the square room, probably half the size of that. So it has my lathe in it, has a very small sander, a drill press, and then a pegboard to hang stuff and a small toolbox. But starting out, that's the biggest concern is overhead. So how can you produce a product with minimal overhead? Most of the money that you're making from these things is being reinvested, so you aren't able to spend outside of that. So let me look at my notes. So yeah, very purpose-built, very small amount of tools. This lathe that you see was the biggest purchase. I saved for 6 months, probably after graduating, and eventually bought it from a guy who used to make guns. Yeah. So I finished it up, cleaned it up, and it's actually a metal lathe, so it's not really meant for wood. But I was using it to turn the brass fitting down that's on the end for hanging. Originally, I thought I needed this tool to do that. After purchasing and doing a few of them, I realized a $100 desktop sander would do just fine. So yeah, so that's my shop. Growing from that, hold on. I wrote this in the last 2 days, so forgive me if I'm a little. Okay. Again, this is my shop. This is my work table. This is basically on the opposing side. next to the lathe, just a stack of rolling pins and some stuff hanging on the wall. But again, looks better there. Yeah, so I took this, and the biggest problem I'm finding with, especially at that stage, is losing momentum. You get excited about a product, you start manufacturing a product, you're just full of excitement, you want to get this thing out there, and eventually you kind of, things become real. So you try to sell this thing, you might not get a lot of ground, so you're looking for other options. And I found the biggest way to do that is start looking at new products. Don't let one thing hold you back, keep developing new ideas. Those ideas that we develop along the way help drive these other things, because this is running a business. The day-to-day running a business is extremely monotonous. It's the stuff they don't teach you in school. So from there, I kept doing what I was doing, and I started looking at new products and how to brand myself properly. So image has been a big thing. I find that especially today, people are very quick to decide if they like something or if they don't. They buy into a brand. Originally, we used my whole name, and me and my girlfriend, we were looking at the brand. Originally, it was my full name on that branding tool, and we discovered that it almost seemed better just as my last name. It was more concise, it was a little ambiguous. It could kind of hold its own in the future, plus it's removing me a little bit from it, which is nice. So I machined my first name off, and now you have Tomnuk. I think brand is one of the most important things, but it's easy to get stuck in something that might not communicate who you are. So keeping things minimal, keeping things simple helps quite a bit. So moving on to my website. Again, can't see it that well, but at the top there is your home page, my about page, projects, shop, retailers, and contact information. But it's very simple, clean white layout, the logo, and all the pages are the same. On the front there's a slide. So it's letting the work do the talking. I think a lot of websites you can kind of get a little caught up in the actual design of the website, especially early on when you want your products to talk. Again, this is the blog page. I'm just going to do a little plug here. That's a Trivet giveaway I'm doing right now for a new product. So if you go on Instagram, you can find that, and we're giving it away tomorrow, so you have today. But yeah, this is my blog. Again, it's very simple, clean. It's letting the imagery do the talk. And photography is huge. Didn't really understand it at first, but I slowly realized it as I started selling to retailers. These photos were done, I staged them, and then I had a friend of mine that we graduated with, Amelia Chu. She owns Storybird Photography. She mostly does portraits and things like that, but she decided to help me with this. So keeping things simple is tough, but sometimes you can, it's tough keeping things simple and getting good products and also keeping it affordable. One of the ways I've been doing that is trading work. So giving people product for either photography or web design or things like that. So finding and fostering those kind of relationships are always good, especially early on. We're all relatable in that sense. And the more you talk with people, the more you understand that we've all started out in the same place. So this is a really beautiful photo, and I wish you could see it. I'm going to hold this up. So, yes, there it is. Can you see it? So yeah, photography was huge for me. It, when approaching retailers, it really helped boost the product, because most people are seeing this through a picture, through a sell sheet. So to be able to show your products through an image is extremely important, especially early on when you can't afford to send everyone product for. Anyways, again, beautiful photo. I'm going to skip over this. Done again by Amelia in 29 Armstrong, which used to be over here, but they're in Manulife now. So that was the chandelier design I did. You can see all this stuff on my website. Moving on. Going back to losing momentum, these were products that, again, I started working on early on, salt and pepper shakers. Can't really see them that well. I haven't released them yet. They're going to be released probably in the next month. So they have like a solid brass plug on the bottom. anyways, this product was something that kind of stemmed out of the rolling pins. I wanted to extend the line of kitchen products. It was very simple and easy to make, and I love the minimal design. So I could talk a whole other talk on just my designs and how minimal they are, but I kind of want to share something that might be useful in terms of how to build a business from this simple idea. So this is one of my products. Again, another one. This is the Trivets. They are a rectangle or a triangular piece of walnut, and they're hollowed out in the backside, so they can be used for putting hot pots on, things like that, but they can also be used on your tabletop for candles and things like that. Relationships. Like I said before, I started out, I was selling to family and friends, things like that. Production wasn't that high, so me ordering 100 units from the States and spending my own money wasn't that big of an issue. It was small unit costs, I could afford it. Then I started developing more relationships with retailers after a somewhat of a hiatus, being a little nervous about actually being able to sell my products. There's probably about a 3-month period where I was kind of gonna stop for a while just because I couldn't get traction. I couldn't get retailers to buy things. And then I did some traveling. I went to Vancouver and I started talking with people face to face, which if you can do that, it's the best, the simplest method. The direct communication is always the best, but we don't obviously live in a perfect world, so you do what you can. So I got my stuff into Inform Interiors in Vancouver. I don't know if anyone is familiar with them, but they are quite a large retailer of designer goods. So everything from Tomnuk to local people like Brent Comer. So that propelled me. It's like that one retailer propelled me to a whole new level. So from 1 month earlier where I was selling 5 pins out of the back of my car to some friends, all of a sudden I was selling like hundreds within like 3 months. So that opened up a whole new set of problems which you're constantly running into, especially with small production. Looking into what I could do and how I could make things locally, again, I looked back into who I could talk to, looking back into local manufacturers. The biggest thing is that Edmonton's so driven by industry. It's hard to find people who do this kind of work at a decent rate, especially production. So eventually I found Gord. He is a small-time wood lathe guy, and he is based in the south side of Edmonton. He does this out of his garage. He actually has a setup at the farmer's market, so I'm sure you've seen his stuff. But this is a perfect example of building a solid relationship with someone, because he kind of saved my butt last year. We got connected with Food 52 in New York, and they sold about 150 pins in a month. So, and I said, yeah, I have them, and I didn't. So, in that frantic moment, I found Gord. So we got together and we started making these pins, and we kind of made an understanding between us that we'd help each other out. So right off the bat, he was super busy. It was Christmas time or getting close to Christmas time. So he usually would charge more, but we decided just to get these pins out for me. Great guy, great relationship. So we're continuing this. So the nice thing about working with local people is that you don't have to carry the inventory. So you don't need to spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 all at once and just sit on it. In small shops, small manufacturers, it's quite difficult to sit on that money. And then you can't progress into new products. So that's always a frustrating thing. You want to keep moving ahead while staying true to your original products. So another great relationship. How long have I been talking? Okay. All right. Other designers and creatives, also super important, especially in a small city like Edmonton, where a very tight-knit community, yet a lot of people still don't know each other, which is kind of odd. Like Brandon was saying, you mention some names and all of a sudden everyone knows each other. Yeah, moving on. A lot of designers I've worked with, I even have somebody working with me right now who just graduated last year. And he's only working for me part-time, especially on bigger commissions and stuff like this when I can afford to pay someone. But we do tend to get together and kind of bounce ideas off each other, almost in that business sense. And he's quite great. He's taking advantage of the opportunity just to try to make things. And in turn, I'm trying to produce products that he's designed. Moving on. Bigger work. This is a community table that I did in Edmonton. It's in Boyle community. Again, you can't see it that well. It's a 65-foot long. Can I go ahead and then come back?
I think you can.
No, that one's not better. Okay, yeah, so it's 65 feet long, and it can seat up to 52 people. The idea was this is a community. It's for people who are recovering and kind of getting back on their feet. So, and you want a place for these people to get together and talk. A lot of standardized table and seating arrangements are quite static, and they only seat so many people, usually 4 to 6 people kind of thing. So I wanted to build something from a very simple idea that just bringing that community together as a whole and allowing multiple people in different situations to do so. So this is it. It's long and interesting. It's got these broken pieces in the middle just to create a little visual interest. But again, it seats 52 people, and it also is wheelchair accessible between the bar side seats. So it starts off at a picnic table height, then it steps up into a bar height, and then a standing table. So yeah, this is a very interesting project for me. I, again, work out of a shop half this size. So I obviously couldn't build it and manufacture it in my own studio. So starting out again, sourcing materials, sourcing local manufacturers, and keeping it small and simple. With products or projects like this, budgets are quite small, especially with arts projects. They're quite underfunded. So keeping things very simple is tough. As designers, I think we tend to let our minds run a little wild. It's hard to reel it back in sometimes, but with this, I was just trying to keep it to the one idea, how to produce that idea and how to execute it properly. So it was installed last year in August. I did it with the help of a friend and another friend's truck. We loaded all these frame sections into a trailer, brought them in, and the site people installed them with a bobcat, and then I did all the woodwork myself on site, which again is quite an amazing experience. If you can be connected with your public art, do it, because I met so many interesting people that were involved in the table, whether they're building the space or using the space, developing those connections and also those relationships with community. It gives you a new insight on how to create objects like that. So if I were to approach it again, I would have a whole new toolbox. So again, that's a picture at night. There's these string lights above it. That was the architecture company, not me. Again, this is the most current work I did. So going back to bigger projects, this is a chandelier I did for ATB Financial. It's 9 feet long, and it's made out of this 3-form material. So it's somewhat transparent. It's a plastic, but it's a resin-based product. So it's quite malleable. So you basically heat it up with a heat gun and twist it and bend it. So that was all handmade, but what I wanted to talk about with this product is, again, the relationships, keeping things small. I was able to rent a studio space, not unlike this, where you're allowed to kind of work out of the space. It's another designer in Edmonton, Mike Lamb. He is currently trying to start a bit of a workspace for designers, for artists, people who need bigger spaces, more tools and things like that. And I guess I found Mike pretty early on. My girlfriend did some work for him, and she sent me his contact and said, you should go talk to this guy. So I went. And from there, we developed quite a good relationship, and I made that there. But again, we put on a design show in his space. We've discussed maker spaces, which he's quite interested in. And yeah, I don't really want to talk too much about maker spaces. That's been done. But if we keep doing and fostering these relationships, it helps quite a bit. So I guess I encourage most makers to get out there, talk to people, it's difficult. I'm a pretty shy person, so I tend to hide behind my computer all the time. But yeah, I think that's about it in terms of where I've been and where I've come and how keeping things simple has worked for me. It hasn't been easy, but it's getting to a point where I can actually see the other side. And it gets quite exciting. Again, building the momentum is always important. It's very easy to fall behind. And then from this point on, we plan on developing new products, working with other companies. This is a wonderful project. I learned so much, and I want to continue doing that stuff. But we also have a line of products that we're trying to continue. So those are the things I'm doing and the things I want to be doing. And that is it. I'm keeping it minimal.
Move right into questions and
Stuff.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things to ask you about.
Questions? Yes.
So with your product line, sort of improving your product line and getting bigger and growing, there's a tendency, especially in this city, when you start to get to a certain size, you move elsewhere, you go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
What's the future look like for you as far as where you're located and where you're situated, and how are you going to overcome the small city mentality of Edmonton?
Good question. To be brutally honest, I think about moving all the time. I was born and raised here, and a lot of me moving isn't necessarily, I don't think, opportunities here. It's more just seeing new things. I think it's very important to kind of surround yourself with new stuff as a designer. Edmonton's great for a lot of reasons. It has a lot of industry. Again, going back to what I was talking about, those industries might be tough to tap into, especially when you're manufacturing products like this. But once you do find those people and foster those relationships, they're so readily available. It's a great opportunity. In terms of working abroad, yeah, you have places like Brooklyn that are just full of people doing things. I was just there, and in the Dumbo area, for instance, you can walk a block and there's another maker on every corner. There's people wood turning, there's people making jewelry and clothing. So you have, I guess, a lot more density in terms of makers. But at the same time, I think the same thing exists here. We just need to foster it more, keep growing with those spaces like this that are so valuable. That Edmonton's young, we don't have those yet, so you just got to keep doing it. Does that answer everything? Yeah, great. Yeah. Anybody else? Carmen?
What is it about kitchenware attractive to you?
Well, a lot of it has to do with like the utilitarian object. So most, well, I shouldn't say most because now it's quite popular. But when I started looking at kitchen products, there's so many things that were very utilitarian and they weren't thought about in an aesthetic way. So as a designer, that's just a huge opportunity to dive into. So that was the biggest reason. Obviously, I don't want to put myself into a niche. That's not my interest. My interests lay in all avenues of design. So as of now, we're kind of slowly moving away from kitchen stuff, like maybe some homewares, things like that. I'm trickling from product into furniture eventually, but the biggest reason I stay clear of furniture as a small maker is because it's so expensive. And you like, again, talking about overhead, instead of sitting on $2,000 or $3,000 of the product, you're sitting on $30,000 of the product. So as somebody small, it's quite impossible. So yeah, kitchenwares, slowly moving away from them, but I've really enjoyed it. There's definitely a lot more opportunity, and I'll probably revisit it, but for now.
So you're saying you're working on kitchenwares, but you've got other things cooking.
Yes, or rolling.
Well done.
Any more? This is what I was actually most excited about, was this part, the questions.
Can you just talk about your design process, maybe, like when you're going to approach a new
Totally.
product, what you do?
I think it varies. I'm pretty bad at not drawing. Like I used to draw a lot, and then I found in the last few years since I've been running a business, I get so caught up in everything else by the time I actually have time to sit down and draw, I'm just like tired and it's not there. I think most creatives can relate to the whole, it's just there when it's there and you got to kind of grab it and while it's fleeting moment. So that part I'm still working on, trying to figure out how to capitalize on those fleeting moments. When I approach a product, I guess I'm usually looking at, again, something that has a primary function that maybe doesn't have an aesthetic value or vice versa. How can something be used in more than one way? Basically starting from a simple idea and working outwards. Something like the chandelier, it's the client came to me, they're interested in my work and they wanted something similar. So right off the bat, you have a starting point. So it's quite a bit easier. Yeah, I think it's evolving too. I guess looking in on me, you can say I have a style. All my friends say I do, but I don't think I do. When I look back at my work from my last year university to now, it's so much different. So I guess the process will always change with me. So right now it's this, and next year it might be completely different. Anybody else?
Is that, do you have any advice for making contacts for
Yeah, maybe I don't know, it's tough. I guess there's different ways of approaching it, and it depends who you're talking with. For me, a lot, like when I talk about, say, the machinist that made the plugs for my salt and pepper shakers, I have a bit of a machine background in cars and stuff, so when I talk to those people, I feel like I can relate. So for me, sometimes finding some sort of level you can relate on, if that doesn't exist, I don't know. I think the easiest way is just to get past it. That's what I had to do, and I'm still doing it, just out of my comfort zone. Yep. There's no good way. No. So I guess, like I said before, talking with people in person is the best way. Maybe not in terms of being shy and actually doing the task, but developing that connection for sure. People are less likely to say no to your face than they are over your email.
So you talked a lot about minimal design, cautious with your ideas. There's also an obvious push for green design. And as a new designer, do you have to consider that with product? Is it a pressure on you, or is it a burden?
I wouldn't say it's a burden.
Or are they synonyms?
That's good. I wouldn't say it's a burden, but I would say as a designer in today's society, you'd be ignorant not to have it in your mind. I do think about it quite often, especially that's why I use wood products, and I'm starting to look at other materials, but you're always thinking about the life cycle of the product. And a lot of my products, I'm hoping they're more of an heirloom, so people are going to have them for an extended number of years. But it's not always the case. I think we're all pretty sure of the fact that most people are going to throw things out, whether it's an heirloom product or not. So yeah, I try my best. I think it becomes more of an issue when you start working with other companies, which I'm trying to do, because they have their own set of rules, and you're basically just a designer making a pretty object for them sometimes. So that's when I would struggle, and I think I'll have a much more difficult time designing at that point. But right now I have a lot more say in my things, so it is pretty easy. But I think it's very important. I think if you're not thinking about it, again, it's kind of ignorant. But